So good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of PSIR Talks by the Association of Political Science Students of Nazarbayev University. Today we will talk with our amazing alumni, Aiym Sarmanova. Aiym, good evening. Is it evening for you too?
It's 3 p.m.
3
Close
p.m.
to
Good
it.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me briefly introduce Aiym to our guests. So Aiym graduated NU with bachelor's degree in PSIR in 2021, and she's currently studying on the GLODEP Erasmus Mundus joint master's degree program. So Aiym, can you tell us how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. So Aiym, please, I'll ask you to introduce yourself briefly and tell us about what you are working right now on. Yep, the floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, thank you guys so much for inviting, especially considering that, I spent so much of my university life with APSS. So it was very, heartwarming for me to come back here like this, even though it's virtual. As you said already, I'm currently in my first year of my master's degree. It's called the Global Development Program. It's an Erasmus Mundus joint master's program, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now with the most of my time. Apart from that, I'm thinking about my thesis because next year, I'm already kind of starting my work on it. And yeah, that's about it, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for this brief introduction. Moving to a discussion about our NU life, when you were a student, bachelor's degree student. So please tell us how NU shaped you and your identity.
It's very, very difficult for me to answer this question in a succinct manner. So I'll just say that I came to NU when I was when I was 17 years old, and I spent 4 years of my life there. So I think it shaped me as a person in general. Apart from my academic career, that's understandable. The people I met there, the activities I was involved in, the classes I took, the professors I talked to, it all shaped me to become who I am today. So whoever is listening, I would say that you should really try to make the best out of this experience because NU provides so many opportunities that I honestly, as a 17-year-old, didn't think I would get to experience in my life. Maybe further, sorry, maybe if we move on to certain specific issues, then I'll talk about, the student activities, the classes and everything. But in general, that's my take on how NU has shaped me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this beautiful answer. So yeah, it should be noted that you were a distinguished student in political science and international relations. So my question is, who or maybe what impacted your choice of PSIR as a major?
That's a great question. I don't think I still know the correct answer to that, but I would say that when I applied to NU, I applied to the foundation program and to the direct admission at the same time. They always knew that I would choose PSIR as my major because I don't know, I feel like from the majors that were present at NU at the time, this is the one that spoke to me the most because I was always interested in politics. I was interested in civic life specifically, I would say. Politics in itself is a very wide term and it could include many different things. But when I was younger, I was very interested in activism and civic life. So I thought PSIR would be the closest thing to that. So what impacted me in general would just be my upbringing, as a regular person living in a small city in Kazakhstan and just looking at activism, looking at civic life and finding purpose in it. I thought, you know what, maybe political science will help me understand this aspect of my life better.
Okay, thank you. So as a student, as a master's degree student, and when you were a bachelor's degree student, so I think for everyone, it's a really important question how to manage your time, how to combine your social life with your academic life. And this question is about time management. How did you manage to combine it, your academic and social life when you were a student?
I think manage is a strong word. I'm not sure. I'm obviously not the best person to ask this question. I mean, you guys had Arujan or the previous PSI folks, and she might be the better person to ask this question. But I would approach this from the point of somebody who has never been that disciplined. I personally consider myself to be kind of on the lazier side. Like if there's I wouldn't describe myself as particularly hardworking. If I get passionate about certain things, then yes, I will put a lot of effort in it. But I'm not disciplined or hardworking per se. So my approach to time management comes from doing what I like. For me, it was easier to work on subjects, to work on classes that I found interesting, that I found intellectually challenging, than classes that honestly I wasn't as interested in and I didn't put that much effort into them, for example. And for me, what also helped me, and I'm not sure this is something that works for everybody, but I kind of like I had different part-time jobs and internships throughout the whole 4 years of my time at the university. And I feel like it was a little bit of a distraction, but it also honestly helped me because for me, I'm somebody who has to be put into certain time frameworks or certain obligation frameworks that make me do stuff. So my advice would be, create a study group with your friends, make certain promises or get certain responsibilities that would make you go there and make you do that. If you're someone like me who is not really super disciplined and you cannot really trust yourself to go there and do something without somebody waiting for you, then just put yourself into a system where you would kind of feel obligated to show up and to do the work, and also just do something that's interesting. Take the classes you're actually interested in. It's much easier to listen in class, and it's much easier to do the work when you're learning about something that you're truly passionate about. Yeah, so that would be my answer, basically.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you that we have a great opportunity to choose what we want to learn. Yeah, what we are interested in. So yeah, and what maybe particular skills and knowledge that you acquired at the university you were useful to you at work or very useful to you right now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think if we're speaking of classes, some of the most helpful classes, some of the most interesting classes, some of the most promising classes that I took where they had to do with, they involved some kind of level of writing because, wherever you are, whatever job you end up choosing, I feel like you being able to write and to explain your thoughts in a clear manner is one of the best, one of the most useful skills. So I would say take your writing classes seriously, take your writing assignments seriously, and it's something like each essay you write is going to help you in the future further on. So that's, for me, the skill of writing has been one of the most useful things that I've learned through the university. But also, I don't think our university is that big on teamwork, to be honest, but the assignments that involved some kind of teamwork were also, I think, very helpful because in a working environment or when you're doing your master's, I mean, obviously it depends on the kind of master's you're doing, but I feel like teamwork is something that it could be useful in many different ways. So I would also say like take your group assignments seriously because it's a skill that could end up being useful wherever you choose to go in life. So yeah, I think those two skills were most useful in general. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And if I'm not mistaken, you worked or still working maybe as a communication specialist in PaperLab, yeah? So could you tell us about your responsibilities and the overall experience there?
Mm-hmm. Well, PaperLab has a very, very special place in my heart, and it's somewhere that I got to learn so much and grow so much. I started there as an intern. I think it was the first semester I think it was the first semester of my fourth year. I'm not good with time frames, so I might be wrong here, but I worked there as an intern for a little bit. Then I moved on to become a communication specialist, I think like about 2 months after my internship. So for me, I mean, PaperLab as an NGO, as a, an active player in the civil society of our country, it meant a lot to be there. It meant a lot to get to meet all those people and to see that there is a very vibrant, even though it's very small, there's a very vibrant civil life in Kazakhstan. And that's something that I feel like we don't get to see at NU because we're so detached most of the time from, the Kazakhstani society. So yeah, if like moving on to your question specifically, as a communication specialist, my work was mainly focused on running the social media accounts of the organization, but also just, carrying out communications with our partners, with our guests, with our speakers at our presentations. So, but apart from that, because it's a small team, it's an NGO. Apart from that, I also was very involved in a lot of the research projects in almost all the part, because as as somebody who's responsible for the social media pages of the organization, I was very involved in every project and saw what conducting research in Kazakhstan looked like, or what engaging with civil society in Kazakhstan looked like. So if I were to give one advice to my younger self, let's say, I would suggest, or to younger and new students, to be honest, I would suggest to actually get out of the NU bubble earlier on and see for yourself what the Kazakhstani civil society proposes to, or like what it does in general. Because again, because we have foreign professors, because we're so far away from kind of like the regular day-to-day politics of our country, it's very easy to get carried away. It's very easy to be stuck in the theory of something without looking at practical implications of it around you. So there are many incredible civil society organizations in Kazakhstan, in Astana also specifically, and they're always happy to take on interns or volunteers or just people who would in general participate in their events. So that's something that I would suggest in general. That's something that I wish I started earlier. I wish I, engaged and worked with civil society NGOs in Kazakhstan earlier on, because it would have helped me to see in practice how it all worked and just become an active part of my own society, my own country. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. You mentioned that you were an intern in your first semester during your fourth year. And can you please say how for PSIR students, how it is important to be involved in various internships, maybe not to be part of one, but to be involved in a couple of them, and how it is important for PSIR students who want to work after NU, so not to go to get a master's degree, but to work.
Yeah. It's a very legitimate question. Because I don't think doing a master's straight out of your bachelor's is for everybody. And for me, it was also a big question: do I want to stay here and carry on with my work at PaperLab, or pursue my master's? And I have a lot of friends who actually are working right now, and it helps them to think about their future more clearly. So I would say having internships is amazing, and it's not as scary as it sounds. I know when I was like a freshman or a sophomore, like it was very easy to kind of procrastinate on it and be like, oh, I have so much work, I have so much schoolwork to do, and also like, what can I do at an internship? There's nothing I can really, bring to the table. But that's not the case. A lot of the organizations, especially if it's civil society organizations, they would be happy to have you. It might be a bit difficult in terms of, because they're so small and their capacity is limited in terms of finances even. But if it's something that you can afford, they're always open to new people. They're always open to teach the younger generation of political scientists or activists. So in that sense, and civil society organizations are not the only place that our people from our major can go to. There are many things you can do, and you don't have to limit yourself to one thing in particular, or you don't have to limit yourself by the so-called boundaries of your major. So I would say with internships, I would say start early, always reach out to people, even if they say no. The fact that you sent your email, you sent your CV to them, it's going to show they're going to at least one person there might remember you for the future. So I would say that I'm a huge believer in internships, and if you can afford it, mentally, financially, whatever it is, if you can afford it, I say that starting and getting an internship as early as possible is a good idea in general.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you on that. So you're acquiring soft skills, not only some practical skills here and theory that you study at NU. And I will repeat for those who just joined us that Aiym is a student right now doing her master's degree in Erasmus Mundus. And I would like to ask you, how and why did you decide to apply exactly for this program, not another one?
That's a good question, because this program, as a lot of Erasmus Mundus programs are, it's quite specific, I would say. And because it's a joint program and you spend your time at 3 different universities with 3 different systems, so it's a very different experience than you would get at a regular program, a full-time program at a regular school, let's say. For me, this program, I chose this program because it had a very specific take on development. I was always interested in development studies, but I was also very interested in development economics. I didn't get to do, I only got to take like 4 economics courses, I think, throughout my bachelor's, which was, those were the courses, one of my favorite courses, and to be honest, one of the most toughest courses for me, because I'm not exactly like a math person, but I love those courses. Even though it was difficult, I really loved them. I really enjoyed them, and I really enjoyed this marriage between economics and political science when it came to development. And as you might know, development studies in general, they're very interdisciplinary. So in our program, we have a lot of different people from very different backgrounds. I have people who are coming from a very corporate world, people who are long-time economists, a lot of political science students like me, a lot of people who study geography, for example. So for me, this program was interesting because, again, there was this marriage between political science and economics that I found interesting. And also the program it had a lot of statistics courses and a lot of courses on like survey techniques, coding. So that's something that I felt like I lacked in terms of hard skills, even though we do cover it at a bachelor level. I'm sure you guys still take like quantitative methods, which is a good intro to it, but it's something that you probably have to carry on learning by yourself, be it R or Stata. And that's something that I found that I would like to develop. So the curriculum of the program was very specifically suited to my interests in terms of practical, hard skills, be it coding or conducting surveys, and in terms of its very unique focus on economics. So currently in my current semester, I have maybe like 1 or 2 political science students, but all the other classes that I have right now are all economics or statistics classes. So that's basically the curriculum of the program, and also the opportunity to get to live in 3 different countries was very interesting to me. And also, if you get the Erasmus Mundus scholarship, it takes off a lot of weight in terms of financial security, because especially like with people who apply to the US, there's a lot of there's more uncertainty in terms of your financial security, in terms of like your day-to-day expenses or something like, or insurance or something like that. So I know it doesn't get talked about as much, but for me, financial security was something that I found important for my own well-being. So, that was also a factor in my choice of program.
Yeah, thank you. That's interesting that you have an opportunity to live in 3 different countries, as you mentioned. Yeah, and your first semester you studied in Czech Republic, as I know, and right now your second semester you are in France. How do these 2 countries differ in terms of education and studying? So I think you already experienced some kind of differences. And which one do you like more?
Very good question. I'm gonna choose my words try to choose my words very carefully here because I'm still studying here. So no, I'm just kidding. For me personally, I don't think I can speak on the education system of Czech Republic or France in general as such, because again, this program is very unique. So I'm not sure if what I've experienced is the Czech approach to education or the French approach to education, or is it just how my master was? To be honest, like I haven't researched the general education fields in those 2 countries, so to be honest, I can't really speak on the overall general experience people might have. But to be honest, I love Czech Republic in general. I feel a very interesting like sense of kinship to that country, also maybe because of the shared is a strong word, but the post-communist history that this country has, and that they are they speak a Slavic language. So I honestly love the country, love the people, would love to go back there, loved Prague. In terms of the education system, it was it was somewhat similar to the system that we experience here. But, and I think this is common to all master's programs, that you don't really, like, most of the time, your final grade only depends on your final exam, or depends on maybe 2 assignments. So, with our bachelor's program, you're used to kind of getting a lot of assignments throughout the semester, and they kind of come together to make your final grade. But that's usually not the case for most master's programs or European master's programs. Usually you would just attend the class all semester, and your final exam will be your final grade. So that's kind of one thing that took me a little bit of time to adjust to. Yeah, the French semester, it's only been like more than a month, so I'm not completely sure I have solid understanding or a solid impression of it. But for me, one thing that's interesting about the French education system is that they usually don't have fixed schedules. Like they teach by units, or maybe it's just my program. Again, I have to reiterate this point that I might not be speaking about the general experience, but as far as I understand, a lot of French programs teach by units. So you would have different classes every couple weeks, every 3 weeks. So at the end of the day, at the end of your semester, instead of only having like 5 classes like you would end up having like 6, 7, 8, or even more than that. So yeah, so far I'm still adjusting to the French system, but we'll see.
Thank you. And which country do you like most in terms of just basic life, as not as a student, just as citizen? Yeah, not a citizen. Yeah.
I don't think I've spent enough time in France yet, but I really like living in both of those countries. And again, my life as an expat, as somebody who doesn't speak the language, is obviously very different from somebody who's more ingrained in the society. And to be honest, I don't really engage with French people that much per se, because all of the people in my program are foreigners. All of the people in my program are expats here, and they don't really have family here or friends here. So in a sense, I mean, personally, again, I feel closer to Czech people in general because I can understand the language a little bit. I do feel, especially in terms of like the communist history and all that, I do feel a little bit of kind of connection to Czech people. That's not the case with France because France is very foreign to me, and I also don't speak French. So it's still very foreign to me. But I mean, both are amazing countries. We'll see. We'll see about France. I still haven't spent enough time here, I think.
Yeah. And your next semester, you are going to study in Italy, right? Namely at the University of Pavia. If I mispronounced it, please correct me. Do you have any expectations about your third semester?
That's a great question. At Pavia, I think we're gonna cover something that's completely new to me. We're going to cover food economics. We're going to cover topics including agricultural production. That's something that I know nothing about, absolutely. So I'm very interested in seeing what this new topic contains. And in terms of expectations, I think I would like to already have a firm understanding of my thesis by the time we get to Pavia. So hopefully that works out for me. I wouldn't say I have like very concrete expectations yet. I'm just excited to learn something that's completely unknown to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. The curriculum they provide is very interesting too, I say. Have you decided to what and where you are going to study in the last semester of your MA program? Because if I'm not mistaken, you have an opportunity to choose where to study, where to live also.
Well, that's another good thing about this program is that they have a lot of partners in developing countries, and you could virtually study anywhere. So for me, I don't think I have like a very clear understanding of a particular country or a particular university or company I'm going to, but in general, I know that I would like to work on transition economies. That's something that I'm interested in. So I was considering like the Eastern European former Soviet republics, but I mean, we'll see how it works out. So I don't think I have like a concrete answer to that question, but that's the general direction I'm looking at.
Okay, thank you. Understand. And talking about some major plans maybe for your future, and what are your plans for the next 5 years, let's say, if you have any already after getting your MA?
I mean, and at this point, long-term planning seems a bit pointless, but I guess we have to keep moving on with our lives. 5 years is a very long period of time. At least for now, I know that in 1 year, hopefully I'll graduate from this master's program, and I would love to work in the sphere of policy consultancy because that's something that I was interested in even before I applied. That's the general direction I'm looking at. I would like to work. I personally don't really see myself in academia. Again, that might change in a couple of years, but I would really like to get, professional experience, and preferably in policy consultancy.
Okay, thank you. I don't think maybe all of us have plans for 5 years, let's say even for 1 year. So these are pretty precise, accurate plans for you, I think. So thank you very much for answering these questions. And we prepared for you also just few maybe blitz questions. And we will be happy if you answer them on your own. So you can take a few minutes maybe, or just one sentence to answer them. So the first question is, what major would you choose if not PSIR?
Data science.
Well, interesting and shocking a little bit. Yeah, I thought you would say economics.
I don't think economics, especially even now, I mean, I love economics, but I think it's something you don't really have to major in. But I mean, a lot of economists are going to disagree with me. But yeah, economics would be my solid second choice. But I feel like now, regardless of what sphere you're in, understanding data collection, understanding data analysis is essential just for even for your everyday life. So I would say data science would be a good, I think would be a good choice. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So your top 3 courses at NU, PSIR or others maybe, yeah, if you remember.
Oh, oh, this is an incredibly difficult question. I enjoyed almost all of my PSIR courses that are, I mean, I would say all of my PSIR courses to varying degrees, but I loved a lot of Professor Saveska's courses, so I'll try to pick one of her courses. I mean, I took a lot of courses from her and I loved every single one. I would say international political economy. But even the other European Union was also amazing. I would say that would be one. If I were to choose one economics course that I liked, I would choose probably advanced macroeconomics. I really enjoyed it. Well, it wasn't advanced. Sorry, I never took advanced macroeconomics. Intermediate macroeconomics. Sorry, I'm mixing it up. And third, oh my God, there are so many amazing courses. I can't pick one. I don't know.
Okay, you can maybe a couple of them if you have something in mind.
There's so many. I mean, I took political science with Dr. Sullivan, which was, again, this is completely off. This is not something that I want to do with my like security is not the least interesting topic for me in terms of political science, but still was a great course. I took development politics with Dr. Adhikari was also amazing, and it's one of the reasons why I'm like moving on to pursuing development studies. Oh my God, yeah, and I also took I mean political. This is like the first course you take. What was it called? I can't remember. Is it political intro to political theory, right? The course you take during your first year.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
taught by
intro
Professor
course.
Krohn. Yeah.
To
Intro
political
to
theory.
intro to political theory. Yeah. It was as a freshman, it was very challenging, but I think it built a very good understanding of what I'm like doing in this major in general. So if you can take philosophy courses, I advise you guys to take them in general, even if they're not PSIR specifically.
Okay, so and about the course of foreign policy analysis, yeah, how was this course for you? Did you find it helpful, interesting?
I didn't take foreign policy analysis.
Oh, sorry then. Okay.
With Dr. Hikari, I took development policy and international organization, which I think is a 400 level course. Also was a great course, amazing readings. I still go back to the syllabus for that class because some of the you're introduced to concepts that are not permanent, but that are very, very that you find often in any discussion on international organizations. So I think that was a very good course in terms of readings and introducing me to topics that I still talk about today.
Do you remember maybe the course that was really tough for you?
I mean, maybe it was introduction to microeconomics, and I'm not sure. Like it was very tough because we had a lecturer who would be considered tough at the time. I'm not sure if she's still at NU, but it was a very interesting course. But for somebody who's not a math person, who hasn't taken any economics courses before in their life, it was difficult. It was tough. It scared me away from economics for a little bit, but I think it was necessary. Maybe that was maybe one of the tougher classes I've taken. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moving on a little bit from the academia and from our student life, yeah, I would like to ask you, if you had a chance to have dinner with any person, dead or alive, would you, who would it be?
Well, that's an amazing question. And I do remember us asking, I think we asked these questions in our interviews as well. And now I'm thinking, like, whose idea was this? Such a difficult question. Who thought this was a good idea to include it? Oh my God, I don't know actually. Dead or alive, right?
Yep.
Mm,
Maybe you have
I
someone.
feel like I would like to meet somebody from Kazakhstan, or at least from our region, because I was like every passing year, I feel like there's very big gap in my knowledge of my own country. So even somebody who was involved in like the politics of the country, especially at the beginning of the beginning of our independence. So I feel like
So yeah, this person maybe just someone you know, or maybe someone you'd like to meet with for a long time. Yeah, or maybe a relative.
maybe relative, I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Khanif. This is like something that I'm so somebody from, because I would like to maybe see that what their understanding of what Kazakhstan or what the Kazakh I don't think they would use the word Kazakhstan, but what Kazakh identity and citizenship or national identity was supposed to look like. So I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you on that. So, and next question is 3 books every political science scientist should read. What 3 books can you recommend?
Okay. I think a lot of like early political theory would be interesting. So, I think so the first book I would say would be like anything from Cicero to like Locke, I would say. Like everything we cover during our first introduction course. Like if you want to read the whole books, I think they're very interesting, and that's why I like the course. Um, Again, this is something that I read like maybe like a week ago. I finished reading it. This is very specific. Like if you're interested in the IMF or other similar international organizations, and you're interested in our region, because there's so little information on our region, I would say The Currency of Power by Broom. I think his name is Alexander. Let me double check, because I remember his surname, but I don't remember.
Sure.
Oh, Alex. Yeah, I think, or Alex or Alexander. The Currency of Power. Yes, thank you, Monica. And the third book, again, very specific to me. I would say like the PKC. I would say. I think it's called Capital. It has a longer name, but the short name is Capital, because that's something that got me interested in inequality as a topic, and something that you might not agree on, and that's okay. You might not agree with his ideas, but I think a very interesting read, and it generated a lot of discussion. So yeah, that would be the 3.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's great. And so this kind of question, if you had a chance to do something differently, what would it be in terms of whatever aspects of your life?
That's a good question. In terms of like academic career, you mean?
So yeah, you can say about this. You can choose. Yeah, just something.
I think, again, this is not inspiring or interesting in any way, I don't think, but I would take learning hard skills more seriously, because soft skills are extremely important and they take much longer to build up. And I completely agree with people who think that it's important to develop soft skills, but I do feel like if I had taken the time earlier on, it would make my life easier. Like if I had learned to like basic statistics or even further than that, or coding earlier on, it would make my life easier. So again, very uninspiring, very practical, but that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay, thank you. So a little bit out of topic, I would like to inform our audience that after Blitz questions, we will have small question and answer session. So please, if you have some questions in mind, prepare them. You can read them in chat or ask them directly from me. Okay, so let's continue. We have a few Blitz questions left. And the next one is what, so you already have an experience of living abroad, yeah, not only in Kazakhstan, of living in France, in Czech Republic. And what is your favorite city for now?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, Almaty has a very, very special place in my heart, though I've never lived there for a long time. I would always like visit and stay there for like a couple weeks at most, but it still has a very, very special place in my heart. So that would be one of my favorites. But I really, really, really loved Prague. So again, I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, but right now, if my current favorite would be Prague.
Thank you. Have you already been in Paris?
No, not yet. I'm going there soon. Yeah.
So probably you'll change your minds after that. Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. We'll see.
Yeah. So, and the last one is, what is your life motto?
I do have a life motto. It's and I always kind of feel conflicted about it. It's in Kazakh. How would you translate it? Like, I don't even know how you would translate it. I could say it in Kazakh if anybody can help me
Sure,
translate it. It's something that I came up, and I'm not even sure if it's like correct, but I would always like to tell myself, "Trek bol." If anybody anybody can translate it. So basically, the meaning is like you have to be like a support system, or you have to be strong for the people around you. And I know this might, for anybody who's listening, this might sound kind of toxic, because nobody can be strong 24/7. Like that's not humanly possible. But for me, this understanding and this feeling of like people I love are worried, like they care about me and they're relying on me in some sense, and my well-being is not only good for me, but it's also good for people who are genuinely rooting for me, who genuinely love me, who genuinely wish me well. And sometimes even when I don't want to, but for the sake of those people, I'll try to like keep pushing. I'll try to maintain, my safety, my health, whatever it might be. So yeah, this might sound a bit like burdensome, cumbersome to some people, but that's something that helps me in general. That's something I like about Kazakh societies, is that we have very wide network of people where we feel genuinely connected to, and it does help me like move on with my life in general, feeling like there's a village behind me and they're rooting for me and they love me. And yeah, I would say that's my motto.
Really, I like this too, and I'd say that even if it's short, it's very concise and has a lot of real deep meaning in itself. So yeah, thank you very much. I would like to thank you for sharing your experience with us, for answering these questions and giving some advice to all of us. And let's move on to our short question and answer session. So please, guys, if you have some questions related to academic life or experience of Aiym, so please write them in the chat or ask them. Yeah, we already have. Aysana.
First of all, Aiym, thank you again for being here with us today. And we've learned a lot about your academic life and experience, but I'd like to ask you something more maybe personal about mental health and all this situation, especially considering the fact that you were graduating during the pandemic and you were also applying to different programs. And how did you cope with all the stress and maybe anxiety or something that you felt during this period? Because I think that many people experience something similar right now, and it would be very helpful to learn how did you do that.
Thank you for your question, and thank you guys so much for having me. And honestly, I wish I had like a very good thought out answer to this question, but I completely understand what you're going through. Because even for us, it was tough. And I imagine that for people who are graduating this year, it's much tougher because I honestly can't imagine going through all the chaos right now and anxiety and also be applying to grad school or jobs at the same time. So I truly like feel for you guys. And I cannot say that it was easy for me. It wasn't difficult per se, like in terms of the applications themselves weren't difficult, but keeping sane when you're doing online school and you're far away from your friends, you're far away from your support network, it was difficult. And I think genuinely trying to stay in touch with people who understand what you're going through was the most helpful thing for me. Actually reaching out to people. So I graduated with people, like with my friends at the same time, with my friends at university, and keeping in touch with that close circle and calling each other, every week and checking up on each other and being like, are you doing all right? Are you doing okay? Like share any anxiety or any difficulties you're having right now with me. That was absolutely crucial for me. And sometimes it was difficult. Sometimes it's much easier to shut down communication and just do the bare minimum and like completely ignore the world around you. But if you make the decision to make that call or send that message, you're going to feel better afterwards. Like if you have I'm just super thankful and feel super blessed to have had that group of friends who supported me through that. So to be honest, that's like the only thing I could advise. And I know it's easier said than done. But I mean, apart from that, I only have very, again, not something super practical, but I would say not being too hard on yourself and understanding that this is unprecedented and this is something that you are justified in your feelings, and it's okay to feel down. It's okay to feel like you don't want to do this anymore. Basically, it's okay. Like, what else can be expected from you in this political climate? Basically.
Thank you. So we have another question, I think, from Malika.
Thank you again, Aiym, for your amazing story. And I want to ask you about your internship at the MFA. So how was your experience working for like a governmental organization, and how did you feel, and how is like work flows there basically? Can you talk to us about that? Thank you.
Yeah. This internship I found through the Career Center. So the Career Center has connections with different ministries, and you can go there and ask them to find you an internship based on your major. So in that sense, like landing this internship was not that difficult. But I think I worked there for either it was 1 month or 2 months, I'm not completely sure, but it was an interesting experience. I'll say that, like having a look at how these kind of government organizations work from the inside was very valuable. I can't really say it was extremely like interesting. I can't really say they like trust you with important tasks. Not really, because you're there for a very like short time, and um, you're like a regular intern that's going to be done in a couple of weeks. So they don't really provide a lot of super meaningful tasks, but having been there and having looked at the internal structure of government organizations was interesting. It was insightful to see it from the inside, basically. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think we have a question from the chat, so I will read it. Aiym, thanks for the evening. Have you had any other ways to choose if it wasn't master's degree? Maybe you thought about working somewhere? Question from this.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's something that every senior students struggle with, and it was the case also for me, because I had a job. I was working full-time at PaperLab already, and throughout the summer I was working there. And for me, if it hadn't been for this master's, I would probably keep continuing my work there, and also look at the different work carried out by other civil society organizations and look into research. But there are also a couple organizations that I know of that do policy consultancy, or specifically do consultancy for a lot of like government organizations. So that was also something I looked into. So yeah, I mean, in a sense, as a PSIR major, it might sometimes seem like the career prospects may not seem as promising or as clear as, you know, people from other majors, but I would say just don't worry and start looking at different positions earlier on. And yeah, it's not as daunting or as difficult as it might seem. It's okay, don't worry. It's something that I thought of when I was about to graduate, but I ultimately ended up deciding pursuing my master's to get more theoretical knowledge, basically.
Okay, thank you. And we have a question from Saltanat. Could you please name few civil society organizations, because I would love to search more about them?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, there's so many. Again, PaperLab is one. Microeconomics is one that I follow. There's Protenge. There's the Eurasia. What was the English name? Okay, give me a second. I'll try to remember. There are a lot of organizations like Feminita who work for like different in the realm of women's rights, and I mean there's so many. That's a few that I can name from the top of my head, but there are many more that you can look up. Once you start following one, you'll see that it's all very interconnected, and all of those people kind of work in they all know each other, and it's a very small but very vibrant field that you can get acquainted with.
Yeah, and I see that someone from our guests, Kaderbek raised his hand, so I believe.
Yes. Okay. So, thank you for the talk. I tuned in a little bit late, but I'd like to ask, what would your advice be to somebody who's feeling a little lost at the moment, who hasn't really been keeping in touch with I don't know, with the courses, who doesn't really know what he's doing right now? Maybe that's my question. It's not very it's poorly phrased, but yeah.
No, it's perfectly phrased. Don't worry. Thank you for your question, and I can completely relate to what you're feeling, because It's very easy to look at people, like to look at the alumni and think that they have everything together and they've never felt lost in their life and everything, just came together perfectly for them. But that's not the case. There's still a lot of aspects of my life that I feel lost in, and there were many times in my bachelor career when I was like, I don't think I know what I'm doing with my life. So it's first, I was understanding that it's not the end of the world and it's perfectly normal to feel this way. That would be the first thing to do. And in terms of, to be honest, for me, what really helped me to push through my academics when I was feeling that way was having a very good environment around me. So having people who were motivated, but also understanding, who were not judgmental. So having those people who we went to class with together, we could study together, that was absolutely crucial for me. And I know, again, like it's easy to say, oh, you know what, make some friends, but it doesn't work that way. I understand. But when you go to class, especially if it's PSIR classes or especially difficult classes, I would say finding picking a couple people and trying to talk to them and being like, do you guys want to study together? Or just feeling like you actually want to go to class because you want to see those people because those are your friends. That, to be honest, was very important to me. What was also important to me was building genuine connections and understanding with my professors, because when you feel like this professor expects certain things from you, or when you feel like you're genuinely interested in what they're saying, it also helps you to push through the class. It also helps you to come to class at least prepared, because this professor, not outside of class, but this, like, you've been to their office hours, you've talked to them, and you know that they have certain expectations and stuff like that. So that helped me a lot. And also just searching, like trying new things, because when you're lost, finding something that can actually ignite your interest, it might be difficult, but it's definitely worth it. Like getting out of your comfort zone and being like, you know what, let's try this internship, or let's try to go to this event, even though I wouldn't normally. But if you kind of make yourself do that first step, it might open up completely new opportunities. So to me, to be honest, people is like the absolutely important part of my university career, and it's something that I think everybody should work on, even though it might seem like you're better off studying or you're better off doing some kind of activities. Sometimes investing your time in people is the best answer to many of your problems, I would say. Yeah, so that's like my genuine advice.
Thank you for the amazing answer. I hope you, Kadebek, you are fine with the answer, yeah? So the next...
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The next question, I think Marjan will ask you. Marjan?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Aiym, for very interesting insights on your PSIR experience at NU and also the insights from Erasmus Mundus program. As you've touched on your internship at MFA, I would like to ask, what was the tasks you were assigned to during your internship? Even if you told that they were not as important as they used to be for the general stuff. So, but like, could you please give more details if it isn't secret, of course?
Thank you for your question. It's definitely not a secret. Most of the tasks were very menial, but I mean, it's a lot of like intern business of please take this, not even please sometimes, but like there, bring this from there, stuff like that. But also translating was a big part of it, which was honestly more interesting than the other tasks. Sometimes, just helping with the documents, like organizing stuff. I got to learn a lot about the inner hierarchy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and how it works, like how do people move on from a position to a different position, and what kind of like ambassadors we had in which countries. So I mean, to be honest, most of the tasks are rather menial. You might get like a translation job here and there somewhere. But it might have changed. I mean, my experience was 2 years ago, so it might have changed. But I wouldn't say there were many like noteworthy tasks that I could just talk about, so that's kind of my answer.
I see. Well, thank you very much again.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And one more question from the chat, from Jules. What are your plans for the future as a PSIR, and what are the ways open for us after we graduate? I think this is a question many of us right now are worrying about. What will we do after we graduate? Do you have
I mean, again, you're not really constrained by the boundaries of your major, especially currently. Your major is not as important, I would say. So don't feel like you kind of like trapped. For me, again, after I'm done with this master's, after I graduate, I would like to pursue a career in the field of policy consultancy. But again, everything might change. I might decide to go back into the sector of NGOs and to be involved in the civil society again. We'll see how it works out. But if you feel anxious about what to do after the major, I would say following the career trajectories of the alumni can be helpful, to see that people are out here, people have jobs and they're not starving, and you're going to be okay. So in that sense, there are a lot of things you could do. You could go into the government sector, you could go into the corporate sector, you could choose to go into civil society and the NGO sector. So there are many things you could do, and one way to kind of get rid of or ease your anxiety would be to look at what the current alumni are doing, and you can do that easily through social media nowadays. I don't have to teach you guys, so yeah, don't worry. There are many things. Like PSIR is a very very flexible major, and if you have some certain skills that you can apply in the corporate world or in any professional sphere, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Aiym. So I believe that today everyone has received a answer for his or her questions that he had in mind. So Malika, I think that you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry, just one last question. I want to ask about your experience with application to Erasmus Mundus program, and like how did it go, and did you consider also other colleges for your master's? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the application to different Erasmus Mundus programs depends on the program you're applying to. As far as I know, the process is very different, but they do ask for like a regular package of 2 recommendation letters, the essays, and your transcript or CV. So in that sense, application was similar to regular thing you might expect from a university, I would say. It wasn't necessarily difficult, and they usually have deadlines in January, I think. What was more difficult was like managing your time. So in that sense, I would say one thing that the Erasmus Mundus programs are unique. That's one thing unique about them, is that you're at the same time you're applying to 3 universities, but there is a host university. So you're generally applying to the program itself and not specifically to one university. So that's something that might make the essay a bit different from what you would expect normally. So that's something I would pay attention to. Yeah, I would say in terms of other programs, I didn't apply to the US. I mainly applied to Europe. I did apply to the Lithuanian School of Public Policy, but I couldn't. I got in, but didn't receive the funding, so unfortunately, I couldn't go. But again, it's a great choice. Like if you're thinking about it, I think it's a great school, especially if you're thinking about going into more professional sphere, and you're less interested in academia. So yeah, basically, I would suggest applying to people who are more interested in pursuing a professional career rather than a career in academia.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry for taking your time, but I also come up
No.
with one question. Yeah. To what extent is it important to establish communication with professors?
You mean professors at NU?
Yes, at NU. Yeah.
I would say it's very important because, I mean, apart from the recommendation letters, it's generally nice to have sort of a mentor. I mean, mentor is a strong word, but somebody you can go to for advice, or somebody whose classes you really enjoy. I feel like genuine connections are great, and if you have a professor who you've taken like a couple courses with and who you go to their office hours and stuff like that, it's just nice sometimes to have somebody who can give you advice, who can support you, or sometimes kind of ease your anxiety about certain things. So I would say building a good relationship with the professors is very important, as long as you're not kind of like being fake or doing this for the sake of networking and stuff. Like if you're being disingenuous, like it's people can see that, especially like people with experience and older people. So I would advise to be careful about being too persistent or annoying or fake. But I mean, again, that's, I think, common sense. So yeah, I think building genuine relationships with the professors is very important. Even apart from recommendation letters, that's one thing. But again, it's nice to have people who have your back and who can give you advice.
Thank you. So I think it was the last question. Thank you very much for agreeing to be our guest, for answering our questions, and thank you for such an open and informative dialogue with us. So we really hope, we're looking forward to see you as our guests, maybe in other events. Yeah, we also have not only PSIR talks, but also different events. So thank you very much. And I would like to express my gratitude to those who are here with us, who asked questions and expressed their interest to your life and your experience, Aiym. Thank you, everyone. So see you. Goodbye.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.